So under these plans to reach net zero, many homes will need new boilers for heating, and in 2030, all new petrol and diesel cars are set to be banned, a move designed to encourage people to buy electric motors. It's reported that the Prime Minister is facing resistance from senior politicians over his plans to make the UK net zero in carbon emissions by 2050 to help ease the cost of living. Well, shouldn't we all just accept a higher cost of living to reach net zero? I'm delighted to be joined by the Conservative MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson, and Hywel Lloyd. He's an executive member of the Labour Environment Campaign, the Socialist Environment and Resources Association. So, Lee, if I just start with you there, it's Lee Anderson, Conservative MP for Ashfield. Let me ask you directly. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, told a Downing Street press conference when he was talking about the cost of living and higher energy prices. He said these are something we have to get used to in the face of global supply problems. Is it right for a country that emits around 1% of global CO2 emissions that we here in this country should make our least well off both colder and poorer?
Well, hello, Darren. No, it's not right. It's not fair at all. And, it doesn't have to be like this, Darren. I can remember just a short while ago, we were jumping up and down celebrating that we'd not used coal in power stations for a couple of months. I think that was last year. Was really happy about that, was bragging about it openly. Hey, look, fast forward a few months and what's happening now? We're actually burning coal again in these power stations because gas is far too expensive. Now, you talk about a referendum. I've got a better idea than that. Let's have an opt-in, opt-out tariff on your fuel bills. If you want to opt in and pay that green levy, tick a little box, and then away you go. And guess what? There won't be many people ticking that box. Probably a few in Islington and that part of the country, but not many in your neck of the woods, and certainly not many people in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, Hywel Lloyd, would you be willing to opt in to such a scheme?
Well, I think it depends what you think we're opting into. I think I'm opting into something that prepares the country for challenges to come. You can look through history. That's what governments are about, preparing the country for challenges to come. The heavier rainfall, the droughts. How can we reduce the impact of these things? So I'm prepared, and I know lots of other people are prepared, to put some investment into that. And it won't just be in your energy bills, because it will be realised in other places. I guess the really important question I put to both of you, is this a question of a challenge or concern about the plans for net zero that this government have, or is it about net zero at all, or is it that you don't believe in climate change? Because it's quite important to be clear about where you've got your concerns.
Well, Hywel, what I would say to that, and I'll let Lee come in after I've said this, but what I would say to that is that this country emits less than 1% of global CO2 emissions. Why should we immiserate our least well off, make them colder and poorer, when China burns fossil fuels at a rate of knots? Surely that's just self-harm.
Well, I agree with you. It shouldn't be for the lowest and the poorly paid to carry this burden. Absolutely. That's about how we do it. But I think I'm with you and a lot of the members of the audience. Britain is a great country, and Britain is a country that shows leadership to the world. We can show leadership. We showed leadership in the Industrial Revolution. We can show leadership again. But we really do, I absolutely agree, need to make sure it's not the poorest that pay for this. That's why the plans the government have announced for the rebates probably aren't right, because they put the burden in the wrong place. Let's sort that out. I'm sure Lee would help sort that out as a Member of Parliament.
Yeah, Lee, is that the case? It's just that the government have got it wrong and in the sort of application of this restrictive policy?
Well, look, there was a lot of poor people during the Industrial Revolution, I seem to recall. I wasn't there at the time, but, it's...
that may have been wrong as well.
All these periods throughout history seem to be built on the back of poor people, and we've got a perfect opportunity. Now, there's nothing wrong with the net zero journey we're going on. We all aspire to that. We all want to leave the planet in a better condition than when we arrived, but forcing people, to choose between, we're heating and eating, that's not fair at the moment. Gas prices are going through the roof, electric prices are going through the roof, and I would sooner see people warm now than green later.
Well, Lee, just coming back on that really quickly, my concern, right, is that when I voted for your party, when many people voted for your party, millions did, about 14 million in 2019, they actually voted for levelling up. They voted for actually their communities being focused on for the first time in generations. But actually, this government is saying that the taxpayer should pick up the tab for what is essentially the lack of commitment and action on climate change and net zero by countries like China. So where's that? Where's the levelling up in that, Lee?
Well, look, we've seen the what's been happening over the past few weeks in Downing Street. We met with the Prime Minister, all the backbenchers did last week. That's no secret. The press were outside listening in. And there's going to be changes. He says, he's going to start listening more to backbenchers for policy. And in that backbench is lots of red wall MPs. And you know what? We come with different voices, different principles sometimes, and different accents, Darren. And the Prime Minister and Number 10 and the policy makers need to listen to the red wall seats, because that's where our core vote is now. And these votes were lent votes at the last election. If we get it right and stop penalising the poorer people in society, take them on this net zero journey, but don't penalise them. Nobody disagrees. Look, I've been on the doorstep for donkey's years.
Absolutely.
And this never, ever comes up on the doorstep. But if you ask them the question, do you want to leave the planet in a better state than when we arrived? 99% of people will say yes. If you ask the same people, do you want to pay for it? Then 99% of the people will say no. It's that simple.
Hywel, the last question I'd put to both of you, would you both put your money where your mouth is, essentially, and pay more to reach net zero to help those less well off?
Yes, I already do. But I think the important thing is to build on Lee's point and your point. This is not a burden that should be put on the poorest. So it's about how we do it. But if you think about how we do it, let me finish, please.
Yeah, I will. But the Labour response,
how we do it, it's about the buildings that we live in.
Exactly the same as the Tory response.
Having buildings done. No. That's the thing. We've got to start with the buildings that we live in. They're not as good as they could or should be. For too long, this country has allowed the building of poor quality homes that are under-insulated, that need more energy than they should. Let's start sorting that out. That doesn't have to be paid for in your energy bill. So you could find the resources from that, from the developers, from the construction sector, just as Michael Gove is already doing on Grenfell. So let's think about where we put the burden, because there is a thing that needs to be addressed here. You both agree with that. It's how, not whether.
Absolutely. So Lee, would you be happy to pay more then?
I'll have to good think about that, Darren. I already pay more from my income tax. You probably pay a lot more than me on your massive wages. People who's on a better salary like me, who's doing... Look, MPs like me, we're on 81, 82 grand a year. We live in London. Some people think we live the high life. I don't have to worry about paying a gas bill or electric bill. I'm in that Westminster bubble. We need to get out in the real world, speak to some real people in Ashfield and in Durham to see how they cope every week with paying the fuel bills. Scrap the VAT, get rid of the green levy, and I think that would be a good start rather than what we've got at the moment. Because at the end of the day, gas prices are going through the roof. We're reliant on foreign suppliers of gas. We've got gas underneath our feet. Let's frack it out. Let's expand in the North Sea. There's a case for coal at the moment. Stop being silly about this coal extraction in this Whitehaven colliery in Cumbria. Let's have a realistic energy policy so we can transition fairly over the next 50 years so poor people won't bear the brunt.
Yeah, Hywel Lloyd from the Socialist Environment and Resources Association and Conservative MP Lee Anderson. Thank you both very much for your time.